The Bitcoin Group, the American original. For over the last 10 years, the sharpest Satoshis, the best Bitcoins, the hardest cryptocurrency talk. We'd like to welcome our panelists, Dan Eve, the Crypto Raptor.
Hey, hey, hey.
And I'm Thomas Hunt from the World Crypto Network. Moving on to issue 1, NAKA shares plunge 54% in a day, reinforcing investor exhaustion towards Bitcoin treasury companies. The stock peaked above $15 in late August before beginning a precipitous decline that accelerated throughout September. The shares slumped to $1.28 on September 15th, down 54% in the past 24 hours and 90% in a month. The firm, famously launched by David Bailey, who owns BTC Magazine and Let's Talk Bitcoin, among others, was said to hold Bitcoin with an exciting plan to sell Bitcoin when it was hot and buy it when it was low. Perhaps not directly reacting to that plan, but reacting to the idea of Bitcoin treasury companies in general. Dan Eve, what do you think about the decline of NAKA shares, which was quite a celebration on Twitter?
Yeah, definitely got quite a hype, right? Didn't even Adam Back invest into it? Did I read that right?
There was lists of investors, including Adam
big
Back,
names, yeah.
Jameson Lopp, friends of the show, also people who claim to own only Bitcoin, suddenly investing in these Bitcoin treasury companies. As I heard, so many people were making money off of MicroStrategy stock when I was still on the side saying, hey, I thought we were all in Bitcoin. You guys still have stock money?
Yeah, I can understand like diversifying slightly into something that's mainly Bitcoin and has its own income stream. But for companies that pretty much just hold Bitcoin and that's it, right? Because it sounds like this wasn't it a takeover of a pharmaceutical company? Did I read that right? That it was originally, or am I? Is that completely wrong? It was an original company.
Apparently, I think it's to get the stock ticker and to get on the
Yeah.
market
Oh,
faster.
right. Okay.
They
Yeah.
were
Yeah.
able to take something called Kindly MD
That's
and
it.
quote convert that into Nakamoto, this Bitcoin stock holding company. I'm not sure that they got more than just the name.
Yeah.
I'm not sure they're offering healthcare anymore.
So kind of like how I think back in 2017, 2018, I think it was around that time, like one of the companies, Voyager, which was previously, I can't remember another, it launched off a different token name. But they took over a Canadian sort of already registered bank. So that gave them the conduit to be already regulated and stuff like that. So it sounds like this was one of those scenarios. But they're 90% down, right? So even if you bought Bitcoin at its all-time high, that would only be $12,000 now if it dropped 90%, and it's not $12,000, it's 115,000. So it really does seem better, right? Just holding the Bitcoin. And if not going for the ETFs, but then they're still, this still may have been an appealing for those that couldn't have bought ETFs for whatever reason. They couldn't have bought Bitcoin or didn't want to buy Bitcoin and hold it because they were scared of holding it themselves, holding their own private keys and all that. But this is kind of unfortunately proof that just buying Bitcoin doesn't magically save companies. And again, we saw this in code with Kodak when they went down the blockchain route right years ago, and they said, "Yeah, we're buying Bitcoin. Well, we're creating a token," and it kind of pumped them in the short term, and then they just fizzled out again after that. So unfortunately, you should probably just hold your own Bitcoin, right? That's the safe thing. If not, hold the ETFs. If you're worried about holding your own private keys and all of that sort of side of things and the security around that and losing your seed, and I think we're going to move on to another article about that, losing access to your money, then holding an ETF is kind of the next best thing because someone else is holding the risk for you. But of course, if the ETF gets hacked for whatever reason, and we haven't seen that yet, right? Sorry, there was a mosquito going around. I'm trying to chop it. But we haven't seen that yet. We haven't seen a major hack in one of these Bitcoin treasury companies. But that's really going to scare people. If they're already dropping 90%, then a Bitcoin hack in a treasury company is really not going to go down well.
Yeah, it really doesn't make sense when you own Bitcoin Magazine, when you run all these Bitcoin conferences, and everyone says at these conferences over and over again, they're like, buy Bitcoin, hold Bitcoin, hold your own keys, don't trust exchanges. Why would you trust an ETF? And then to see some of the largest names in the space go chasing after that sweet profit. But you have to assume that they've seen the MicroStrategy numbers, and that many of these stocks, including MicroStrategy, trade above their earnings. Some stocks even trading 5x, 10x, or 20x above their earnings. From that same idea, you have to assume these Bitcoiners thought, well, they have a certain amount of Bitcoin, so they're worth that amount. But if Wall Street comes through and this insane speculation takes off, it will trade above earnings. It will trade above Bitcoin value. Thus, I would profit more than just holding the Bitcoin, which seems so boring and pedestrian. You know, Bitcoin might just double in the next 6 months. That's nothing now. People want 10x, they want 100x, they want 1000x. So they get greedy, they chase after these things. But to see it happen so publicly to the founder, and well, not founder, but to the leader of Bitcoin Magazine, to the one who runs the conferences, who knows all the smart people, who probably doesn't need this trouble, allegedly retiring to Puerto Rico to not pay taxes, to then run into such an obvious mistake of also being a late adapter here. There are other Bitcoin treasury companies. There's MetaPlanet, there's MicroStrategy, there's even PayPal holding Bitcoin. Even GameStop got in on Bitcoin before this Nakamoto company, even though they have an undoubtedly cool name.
So with NAKA though, because of that huge drop, right, which may have been a lot more than just a lot more panic selling, it holds 5,765 Bitcoin, which is about 663 million at current prices. But the market cap of NAKA is now only about 550 million, depending on source. So it is actually trading at a discount now for the Bitcoin it's holding, and if it's actually making any form of profit on any other services. So dare I say it, but if you were going to buy it, like now that it's 90% down, then it's probably the time to buy now, right? Because it's trading at like a 20% discount. On the MNAV. What's the MNAV? So it's market cap divided by the Bitcoin holding value, right? So yeah, it's about 75.75 to 0.8. So it's trading about 20 to 25% discount relative to the Bitcoin holdings. So this isn't financial advice, obviously, but it is slightly discounted now.
There is some question though, Dan, whether they're competent and whether they can manage to hold that number of Bitcoin. Previously in the past, they had very questionably said that they're going to somehow, I don't know, time the tops and the bottom of Bitcoin, selling at the tops, buying at the bottom, not the opposite like you do at home. But they also, they've said that they would invest in Bitcoin ETFs. So they would take this real Bitcoin and then invest it into fake Bitcoin. And it just seems like, you've got the golden eggs and you're trading them for tickets and you keep getting more tickets and you think you're doing really well, but then all the golden eggs are gone. There's some kind of parable out there, some kind of story where these guys had something really good. I mean, obviously the Shel Silverstein poem, it's not quite perfect, but he starts out with $1. He trades it for 2 quarters, because 2 is more than 1. He trades the 2 quarters for 4 dimes because, 4 is more than 2, so on and so forth. They keep trading down and down and down until he has a peddly amount of sense. But we'll see if that happens to Nakamoto, or if, like Dan says, it could be a good investment. Often things that are 90% down go back up. Sometimes they go down another 90%. We'll have to keep an eye on that.
Technically, you're buying Bitcoin at a you're not buying Bitcoin. Sorry, that's terrible. You're buying something that owns Bitcoin, but you're buying it seemingly at a discount, right? But then they could dilute your shares. That could always happen. That's always a possibility.
You can't dilute your Bitcoin. That's the thing about owning Bitcoin, or even it's not really Bitcoin, but having a 0.001 or whatever in Coinbase. At least you own a 0.001. If there was a lawsuit, they would come and they'd say, well, sir, we're going to try to restore you your 0.001 or whatever you have, or perhaps even the dollar administrative to when it was taken. But we're going to keep an eye on that. It's going to keep happening. There's lots of Twitter talk about this, but let's go to the real predictor that they should have used if they wanted to know the future and the truth. They didn't have to invest in Nakamoto. They could have just trusted the magic 8 ball. Dan, Eve, will the price of Bitcoin be higher or lower this time next week?
Oh wow! So we're about 0.5% down from last week, which is definitely not 50% down from yesterday, NAKA. But so I think we're still going to go higher, right? We're floating around. We've really done well to float well above the 110 marker for a while now, and it seems like we're approaching October. Everyone's saying like October is when things really start to kick off. We're what 10, we're what 12 days away from October. So yeah, I think higher, definitely higher, always higher.
Historically, they always say September is a down month. Of course, this really means nothing because we all know that the coin has no memory. If you could flip the coin 100 times, if you got heads 100 times in a row, what are the odds that the next one's going to be heads or tails? Still 50-50. Still 50-50, yes. But the Magic 8 Ball has a much better track record. I agree with Dan, always bullish. Who knows anything but Bitcoin? Will the price of Bitcoin be higher this time next week? And the ball says, very hard to read. Says, cannot predict, try again. Cannot predict,
Technical
try
error.
again. Technical
Four.
error, the ball will not answer. Moving on to issue 2. Kevin Durant, famous basketball player in the United States, has access restored to his Coinbase Bitcoin account after years. Brian Armstrong says, we got this fixed. Account recovery complete. The message comes just a few days after Durant and his agent Rich Kleinman joked about their predicament on CNBC's Game Plan conference in Los Angeles and on Twitter. Thomas Hunt, what do you think about Durant getting locked out of his Coinbase account? Well, actually, it looks like the best thing that could have happened to him. Durant didn't have to know how much money he had. He didn't have to look at it, and he never thought about selling. They say Durant's Bitcoin have been locked in there for about 10 years or so. The price of Bitcoin when he purchased could have been anywhere between $260 and $1,000. So obviously at 115 or whatever at today, Durant did very well. But it is an obvious thing of what's wrong with Coinbase. He's actually better off with his account locked. I tried to get one of my neighbors into Bitcoin recently. Disaster at Coinbase. I don't know what happened to him. I don't know if he got scammed. I don't know if money went in the wrong account, but there's nothing there, and he's down 3K. I imagine Durant was down even more than that. And it turns out the way to get through to Coinbase support, all you have to do is go on CNBC and complain. So it's going to be real easy for everybody at home. If you have any troubles with Coinbase, you just need to be an internationally known basketball star, played in the Olympics, used to play on the Lakers. And even he took years to get his account back, but he's happy now. He's sitting pretty, and he didn't even have to talk to Satoshi in his dreams like former Chicago Bulls great Scottie Pippen. Dan, Eve, what do you think about basketball players losing their accounts, talking to Satoshi in their dreams, and whether or not it's better to be locked out of Coinbase than to have access?
Yeah, in a weird way, like using an exchange or forgetting your private keys is a great way of holding, because if you think you've already lost it, you're not on that roller coaster anymore. So you're not thinking, shall I sell it? You don't have access to it, right? The easier it is to access it, the easier it is to sell it. So when you're going into that panic mode of you're seeing a drop or you're seeing a peak, and this could be any time along the way. He said 2016, so if he'd have bought, like, for example, 10K in 2016, that's 1.8 million now. That's a huge amount. And imagine all the peaks and troughs we've had since then. So it's like a forced savings account. But obviously, I hate to say it, but like if and there's always the third party risk, right, with using an exchange. But one kind of benefit over using an exchange and forgetting about your money on there, losing your 2FA and whatever, is you've got a much better chance of actually getting into your cash than, say, a dude who put it on a hard drive in Wales. He's never going to see his money back, but this basketballer has got his cash back. So his accidental diamond hands have beat Wall Street. But it does highlight the fact that using an exchange, whilst it has its very, very high risk of exchange going under and exchange being hacked, and we saw with Mt. Gox and like many, I mean, that's a terrible example now because it's so long ago, but many others along the way, is that at least you don't lose it forever. Whereas if you lose your private keys or lose your wallet, you lose the seed, then you've definitely lost your money. So it's kind of a fallback method that as long as the exchange is still going and it hasn't been hacked, then you've got a chance of getting your funds back. But only by the sounds of it, if you're a basketball star and you can jump the queue of Coinbase support, because Coinbase they've been around for a while, right? They've got a good reputation, but they've still got a bad reputation in some respects in terms of people actually being able to get hold of support and issues with their account. And funnily enough, I have my own story about this because of when I got locked out of Poloniex from my 2014 trading account. And I got locked out for years, and it wasn't until I made a song about it called Hotel Poloniexia, and then met someone from Circle in 2018 or 2019, I think it was, and then because Circle bought out Poloniex, I managed, and I met some guy. I was having a few drinks at a party somewhere, and he was like, "Yeah, I'll give you a side into support." And it was only from that way that I managed to get my account unlocked. Otherwise, like, I sent them loads of emails, and they were just way too busy to get in touch. So it was only because I met someone from Circle that I was able to get into my Polo account for him. But unfortunately, it had nothing in it. It was all like crazy, stupid coins. I think it had some Digibyte or something like that, but that wasn't worth anything by that time.
Well, I think you're totally right, Dan, that Durant was really lucky to choose Coinbase. Almost any other exchange would have been shut down, would have been seized by the government, would have been a scam. I mean, imagine he let his funds in BTC-E. He'd be like, I left my funds in some crazy Russian, Bulgarian, Hungarian, no one even knows exchange. And so many of them were like that. So many of them became like that. Moolah, so many of these things. It's hard to even remember all the names of the failed exchanges. So he was really lucky.
BitGrail,
all of these, and Cryptsy,
yeah.
Like, and if you left your funds in any of those, you'd have nothing now. But Coinbase, through their regulatory process, through Brian Armstrong, all the things they did at the startup and so forth, say what you will about it, it's still there for Durant 10 years later. And maybe he was better off in Coinbase, losing his password, losing his email. Like you said, Dan, not only the hard drive guy, the We Use Coins people, so many other people who seemed like they would know what they were doing with their private coins, got a little too smart with them, broke them up into too many pieces, used a brain wallet, whatever it was. And imagine back in the day, you could be testing with 1 Bitcoin. You could be testing your brain wallet with 5 Bitcoin. And now you'd be crying about it because 5 Bitcoin's like 500K. It's insane. So also Durant was lucky when everyone was telling him to sell and telling him Bitcoin was a scam. There was nothing he could do about it. He just had to hang his head and say, oh yeah, I had some of that once. And the additional irony, as it says, both him and his agent investing in Coinbase stock, but being unable to reach his Coinbase account. Just great stuff. And I'm sure they made much more off the Bitcoin than they did off of the Coinbase stock. Tying back to that first issue about Nakamoto, why wouldn't you just hold your own keys, hold the Bitcoin? It seems like the whole thing the magazine talks about, whole thing the conference talks about. It was so weird at the conference for him to say, I'm starting my own Bitcoin vehicle, which is kind of funny because that's what Michael Saylor told everyone to do. So he was just following Michael Saylor's advice. But then again, Saylor's been doing this for decades, has all the lawyers, all the insiders, knows how to do this. I'm not sure Nakamoto had the same advice that Saylor had.
And talking about Coinbase stock, right? It seems like they floated at $342, and funnily enough, years later now, what that was in 2021, it is literally 342.46. So it's up 46 cents. Technically, obviously, it had quite a drop, right? It went down to like $33. So that was quite a buy, right? If you bought Coinbase stock in 2023, that was $33. It's back up to 342, which is 10x since then. But yeah, 342.46, which is only 46 cents up on the float price of Coinbase. But obviously, if you'd have bought Bitcoin back in 2023, you'd be up a considerable amount.
And it's getting harder and harder to recommend anyone, and this isn't a paid endorsement, but at this point, I'm pretty much down to recommending Strike. I don't know if it works in your country, Dan, other things like this, but Jack Mallers, friends of the show, created that cool Lightning wallet. Now he has Strike. The good things about Strike, it only has Bitcoin, so it's less complicated. Your friends can't go there and say, I came back with a bunch of Wonder Coin or Joey Coin, Fred Coin, whatever it was. It was cheaper, had a better multiplier. It seems like it has a good like subscription program where you can buy like $100 a week or $100 a month or whatever you're comfortable with. And I think that there's less scams around Strike because it's less known. Coinbase, on the fact that it's the leader, it's the number one. I think more people are getting fake text messages, fake emails, scams coming in. For all I know, my neighbor had a Coinbase account, joined a fake Coinbase text message, sent away all of his money, as many people I know have done recently, and ended up with an empty Coinbase account. And by the time he reached real Coinbase support, they had nothing they could do to help him because the money was gone. Coinbase is also a big threat. If you have money in there and you take it out, they don't really have good alarm systems. You can take out most of the money on the first try. I don't know why they still have this. They don't have like a, 30% of your funds have been withdrawn. We shut down your account, boss. It's more like they're like, oh, there were 3 questionable withdrawals, and they could have just taken it all in the first withdrawal. And I think the hackers usually do. So yeah, we're kind of recommending Strike, but in general, we're saying maybe use an obscure exchange. And again, try using exchanges as they were meant to be used. Buy your Bitcoin or your whatever coin, and then move it to your Trezor, move it to your ledger, move it to your hardware wallet, move it to an account that you truly control, and then it's yours. And then you can worry about what to do with it next. If you're going to bury it under the cement or put it in a safe deposit box or cut the keys up and give them to all your friends. I don't know what your plan is, but generally it seems holding your own keys turns out better than Coinbase, but then Coinbase turns out better than a lot of other things. So we'll just have to see how it goes. And congratulations to Kevin Durant for getting all his Bitcoin back. I'm sure he's going to be donating to Bitcoin development. I'm sure he's going to donate to Bitcoin media. A lot of podcasters got a lot of money from Kevin Durant, all of that. Maybe children, he'll donate the money to them. Or he'll just keep it all and buy another mansion, another sweet car. Whatever, his money, he can do what he wants. But check out World Crypto Network, where you can do what you want with 4,556 videos. You could watch World Crypto Network for 3 months, 22 days, 18 hours without taking any breaks. Check it out at worldcryptonetwork.com. Moving on to issue 3, a golden statue of Trump wielding a Bitcoin causes a scandal in Washington. And you don't have to look at this picture likely created by AI. You can look at the actual statue on the Capitol Mall. The golden statue of Trump, installed by a group that raised money on pump.fun, supported by the good people of the internet, is right there on Capitol Mall with the Washington Monument behind him and the Senate and House chambers in front of him. The United States Capitol building. The statue is a golden statue of President Trump in a business suit holding a Bitcoin similar to the thumbnail of this video. Many people are now calling Trump the, quote, father of Bitcoin, claiming that his support, which has changed the United States government's position, changed the Security and Exchange Commission, changed the Federal Reserve, has allowed Bitcoin to take off, and that all of the current gains are due to President Trump. Dan, Eve, what do you think about the new Trump statue and allegedly the father of Bitcoin?
Well, it's a difficult one because we said like a while back when Trump was running for presidency and he started going into the sort of crypto narrative that it can really polarize Bitcoin quite a lot because let's face it, if Trump likes something, then the other side will automatically not like it. And I don't think we've actually seen as much of that as we probably could have done, that demonizing of Bitcoin and demonizing of crypto. There's obviously people that have called out the scams, like the Trump coin and Melania coin and all those. But I think it could be a lot worse, the narrative around the anti-Trump Bitcoin stance. And there could have been a lot more calls of for the fact that this is Bitcoin is portrayed as some sort of nationalist power token that's used for billionaires and that sort of thing. We haven't seen a lot of that, which is actually really quite reassuring. There seems to be a bit more of a how do you say, a bipartisan view of crypto. There hasn't been an all-out attack on saying that just because Trump's doing it, that it's bad. But this specifically, this statue. I mean, if you look at the face on it, right, it looks like a combo of. The face looks like a combo of Trump and Martyn Shkreli. You know, that really. He was the pharmaceutical trading guy, right? That ended up doing time. The face on the Trump statue looks like a cross between Trump and that guy. It hasn't sort of scared many people off. Yeah, that cheeky sort of look he's got. I don't know. It hasn't scared much people away as I thought it would. Now that Trump's in power, and we haven't seen as many negative articles. Actually, I think weirdly we're really transitioning into a place where the Bitcoin and crypto articles, obviously, more so crypto for being criticized, but Bitcoin specifically is being genuinely accepted as actual money. And you still got the IMF and the international settlements moaning and complaining and doing what they do, but Bitcoin is really being considered as actual money now, and it's really got a stance on the world stage, and that's quite cool. And it's not so politicized, even though Trump's behind it. I think even the UK and after Trump's visit to the UK, they're saying that there's going to be some sort of US UK crypto Bitcoin partnership. So I'm actually kind of quite happy about the lack of critique that Bitcoin's getting just because Trump's using it. So I think that's kind of cool. But obviously, this statue is Pump.Fun, and Pump.Fun historically has had some pretty bad stuff to its name, like a few people committing suicide on there and all sorts of other crazy stuff. So less of that, more of general Bitcoin, please.
Well, Dan, Bitcoin might be doing well, and Bitcoin might be same as acceptable, but crypto is not. Crypto is completely taking a bath. And let's not forget that Donald Trump has his own crypto, several cryptos, the Trump crypto, as well as the World Liberty Financial crypto. And just a few weeks ago, the UAE, the United Arab Emirates, bought $2 billion with a B worth of World Liberty Financial coin. And a few weeks after that, they were given vital AI chips that are going to allow them to transform the UAE into an AI powerhouse, which may or may not be in the favor of the national security of the United States, but we can see the quid pro quo, or the alleged quid pro quo, certainly from far away. And everything to do with Trump coin, Melania coin, I think there's a Don Jr. and an Eric coin, World Liberty Financial coin. All of this has very muddied the name of crypto, although still, once again, to talk to the other side and say, AOC, if you had a coin and you had $1 billion to invest in your own think tanks and your own message machine, Bernie Sanders, if you had a coin and you had $1 billion to invest in your own think tanks and money machines, would you not be better off? Like, we disapprove of how Trump has raised this money, but no one on the other side, Gavin Newsom, could be anybody, make their own coin, raise $1 billion, even maybe from questionable people. It doesn't seem to matter anymore. But if you had $1 billion, you would be actionably using the $1 billion, which is what he seems to be doing, using it for legal funds or whatever he wants. It's his money right now. It seems to be perfectly legal. And again, we only have a few statues of people in the Bitcoin space, as the article recommended. We have 2 statues of Satoshi Nakamoto, the mystery man who created Bitcoin. And we now have 1 statue of President Trump, who also puts his name on everything, whether it's infrastructure approved by President Biden and the Democrats, or his own hotels and other buildings. I do think, Dan, we've lost a lot of support on the other side. It's very hard to take crypto seriously as a two-side of the aisle thing, which is where you get most things done under most normal government situations. And I would like to see a Hal Finney statue, Andreas Antonopoulos statue, maybe some of the supporters, Marnus Malty, any of the early people, Maybe even Brian Armstrong, or I mean, I guess they hate him now, but the BitPay guy, Tony Galippi, did some good things for crypto and Bitcoin back in the day. Maybe the guy who did BitPay server, they love that guy. How about a statue of him, or Slush, or from Slush Pool or Stick, any of the original Adam Back, cypherpunk type people.
Oh yeah, definitely got to have
I
Martyn
would
back.
prefer to this statue, but again, this it gets people talking. Washington people are talking. The statue's very in their face, right there on the mall. What do you think, Dan? More on the statue?
Didn't the Bitcoin one in was it Prague that got trashed recently?
It was famously thrown into the lake
Yeah.
next to the statue, and they got it back.
Oh, cool. That's good. But yeah, I could see an Adam Back statue for sure, or Hal Finney, yeah, for sure. Maybe not Brian Armstrong.
What I like about the Brian Armstrong, I've been watching the new Superman movie. I love it, and he's very Lex Luthor.
Lex Luthor.
As a bald man with a shaved head, he has a very Lex Luthor. So we have, of course, this famous Satoshi statue in the hoodie, and it's not coming up right here, but there's another one. Here it is, where he's.
I was thinking of the sliced one. Yeah.
Yeah, I really like this. This is the one they threw in the lake. I guess
Yeah.
it's in Lugano, Switzerland, and it's a great looking statue. I'd like to see more of these. Of course, it's a bummer it got thrown in the lake.
Oh, yeah. BTC Moon Guy suggesting SBF, and maybe you could have the whole crew in their polycule as a statue. Sorry, I didn't need to do the hand movements.
We'll blur those out later. YouTube will blur those out for us, I'm sure. But yeah, SPF would be great. I'm still waiting for a good book or a play or a movie about that polycule. I thought it would be way more interesting. I thought they'd get an advance. You know how it is. They get all the money for the things, and then we get to learn about it. Hasn't happened. We don't know anything about the polycule.
Yeah, well, Welsh guy's getting
SPF's in jail. Write a book, man. Tell us what happened.
and Welsh guy's getting his own he's getting his own like documentary before FTX, whatever it is. FXT. I think I'm wearing an FXT. I don't know. I haven't got my hat on. I haven't got an FXT hat. I've got a hat though I think it's FTX, that's it. I've got an FXT hat, which is like camping. And I'm worried every now and then. I think maybe people like they get the letters the wrong way around. They think I'm an FXT guy or whatever it is, FTX. But yeah,
it is
forget
great
about
to
Sam.
see that the Wales garbage dump guy is getting his own documentary series. A friend of mine just told me about that story as if it were brand new. They were like, "Did you hear about the guy that lost his Bitcoin in the garbage dump?" And I'm like, "Boy, did I hear! We've been talking about it for like 8 years or something. I talk about that every other week." But yeah, I do look forward to the show, and I want to hear his voice and see what he says. I don't think he's been in that many interviews. He's not. I don't really know him as part of the Bitcoin community. I think if he'd done that, maybe he would have gotten better ideas sooner. But yeah, it is interesting to see how that dump one turns out and all the other lost Bitcoins. But we better keep moving. We're moving on to issue 4, grab bag. You got to choose your own issue to talk about, Dan.
Oh, grab bag.
London Stock Exchange launches blockchain platform for private funds. The London Stock Exchange launched a Microsoft-powered blockchain for private funds, the first such initiative by a global exchange. Or streamer gets slapped by gym influencer Bradley Martyn, pumping Solana token. Fitness creator Bradley Martyn slapped a Solana meme coin dev and made him $49,000 in crypto for getting slapped. And Tether is unveiling USAT, its planned US regulated dollar-backed stablecoin, and is appointing Bo Hines as the CEO of Tether USA. So Dan, would you like to talk about Tether, the London blockchain trading, or the meme coiner who got slapped and then paid?
I'll go for the boring version. I think I actually was quite intrigued about the LSE and their little blockchain. Although it does seem to be more of an R3 style private blockchain, right? It's not a public blockchain. They're not using a chain that's already in existence. They're creating their own version by the sounds of it. But I think what's good about that is that it is showing that there is not just major institutional interest in Bitcoin itself, but also as kind of people did predict in 2017 when we saw that crazy boom of blockchain, not Bitcoin, rather than obviously Bitcoin or blockchain, but people saying that you could use blockchains and public ledgers for more than just Bitcoin, and it's a good sign that major institutions other than just money are using blockchain as a technology, because it kind of it proves the technology that Bitcoin is built on. And obviously money is the main thing about Bitcoin. But the fact that LSE are using it, we're probably going to see something. I'm sure we'll see something from Swift or one of the the international trading the clearing houses. They're going to be using blockchain soon. It's all going to be on chain. I think eventually. I think it's just going to filter in. But the fact that they're using Azure does raise questions, right? It's kind of decentralized, but only within Azure. That's obviously not very good. And why wouldn't they use? I mean, Bitcoin, for example, could surely they can use maybe if the op return thing happens, the op return increase, they could use Bitcoin for it rather than using a private blockchain. But then obviously they've got to pay for block space. So, but it's immutable. So blah 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 blah. There's the ups and downs, right? But it does definitely lend credence to the fact that blockchain technology is evolving beyond Bitcoin as just money. But I will just say from the pump.fun thing, I you could see it going
Oh
bad,
no,
right?
one at a time. You gotta go back.
Oh, sorry.
All right, so I don't care if they use a Zune or an iPod. What I want is 24/7, 365 stock trading, because the market's always closed, and then major news happens, and you know what happens? The Bitcoin market goes down, and then the Bitcoin market goes down again on Monday when stocks open. So we go down twice on whatever the bad news was. I'd like to see that happen to normal stocks. I don't know why brokers get to take the weekend off. I don't know why they get to take evenings off. And I'm especially talking about hedge fund billionaires who made all the money anyway. Make those people work. Make them work in shifts. Make your A broker do the A shift and the B shift and have them take over. Make them live on a submarine. Read the NASA studies about sleep. Let's torture stockbrokers with 24/7, 365, never ending, no weekends, no holidays, no Christmas, no New Year's, no vacations for stockbrokers and hedge fund managers. I don't care if they do it on a blockchain, Azure, cloud, iCloud, AWS, whatever it is. I just think it should be 24/7, 365. I'm tired of Bitcoin taking the hit.
Agreed.
But no, Dan, you choose that one. I get to talk about the pump.fun. This guy, so apparently there's a big bodybuilder, weightlifting type guy, fitness guy, and he has slapped people in the past for taking his hat. So these guys have some kind of a meme coin, some kind of a dare chart. And of course, we're not doing anything good for humanity. We're not reading books or learning things or building knowledge. We're getting slapped by weightlifting guys, but at least they made tons of money. It's kind of fun at first. Then I think it gets worse and worse as we have fans running on the field during Dodgers Stadium games so that they can get their bounty. I heard that there were other people betting on what color dildo will be thrown into what sport event, which then leads a bunch of people to show up with many colored dildos, and who can be the first one to throw it or sneak it in. It kind of downgrades and degrades all of society. It's like an assassination market for stupid of who can pay the most to do the most stupid thing. And apparently slapping this guy was $49,000 of stupid, which is, it's a whole year's salary for a lot of people. It's a double a year's salary for a lot of people. I'm sure it inspired a lot of people. A lot of people want to get slapped now. They want to get that money. Dan, what do you think about the meme coin guy getting slapped?
Yeah, I thought about this as a thing in what I think in 2019 when Ben was first telling me about LM Bits, and he'd created the extensions that you could have so that you could put, people could pay you on screen.
And of course, remember, Ben was slapped on this show.
Yes.
Before this, and for far less money, I'm afraid.
Yeah, you could pay him sats, and then he'd have like a hand that would slap him around the face, or a smoke screen. Right, it would just suddenly, like, someone would donate, and like they'd donate 20 sats, and suddenly it'd blow smoke in his face while he's talking. And I could see that happening, right? You could see that, like, people taking that on and doing, and it would just escalate, because it would get, the more things that would happen, the more crazy it would get. And we did see that in Pump Fun, like, towards the tail end of last year. People were doing pretty extreme things in order to be able to pump their tokens. And there was that obviously there's been some really bad stuff, but there was that kid that dumped his token on a load of people, completely rug pulled, and then had his whole family doxxed, and then someone kidnapped his dog. And obviously it goes way too far. But as you were saying about the prediction markets, right, they are a dangerous thing when you decentralize them, because what's the word, it's the what's the word, where it's like the prophecies, it's a,
Well, sometimes it's the wisdom of crowds, but there's also the stupidity of crowds.
yeah, self-fulfilling prophecy, that's it. So as soon as someone puts a bet on saying, oh, I bet there's going to be a green dildo thrown onto the WNBA court, then someone's going to be like, put a huge wager on and make sure that they throw a dildo on that court. Maybe there's other people that are in security that, like, I'm running the security and I'm going to put a huge wager on that I'm going to catch the dildo, or some, whatever. But yeah, it does create a prediction market of stupid.
Well, and while this may be fun, we have a similar thing happening in American sports where, thanks to the Supreme Court, sports gambling has been pretty much legalized in the United States. And that's not just large scale things like betting on the game and the score, who will win. It's small things like how many catches or how many yards over 100. And I don't know any of the details and I don't know anybody involved, but it seems really easy for a lot of players to just drop a pass here or there, to run a little slower, to know how many yards they have and keep it below that. There's potential for a lot of game fixing in sports, and it's not as funny as the green dildo being thrown onto the field, because people work their whole lives to do these sports. Other people gamble with money for their whole lives, and it would be very sad if they were betting on what could be very easily fixed.
But even like the poly markets I've seen recently, I can't remember if it came out correct or not, but there was a huge wager on Jerome Powell saying good afternoon, or good morning. You're right. It's really abstract things now. It's like, or will Trump say a specific word whilst he's doing his speech, something like that, right? And yeah, you're right. It's open to gaming it a huge amount, because it's not just the regulated obvious things that would be quite hard to do, right? If it's a case of, like, will the so and so team win the game, it's quite hard for it. You have to have someone that's really instrumental in the game, whether they're a goalkeeper or whatever, to be able to swing the game, right? But if it's something that's quite abstract, like a green dildo being thrown onto the court, you could, anyone can sneak in a green dildo, right?
Maybe even teams of people. And of course, Dan, this reminds me of an excellent historical antidote or antidote. I don't know if it's real or not, but everyone talks about famously Calvin Coolidge, president of the United States. He was a very cool character and he wouldn't say much. And a woman came up to him and said, Mr. Coolidge, I've bet my friend that I can get you to say more than 2 words to me. And Coolidge looks at her and says, bad bet.
Nice.
But again, he had insider knowledge. His friends were betting on that. They made a fortune on that.
Yeah.
Everyone knows that. Coolidge made $1 billion off of that. But yes, there's a lot of things like this going around, like Steve-O taking a punch from Mike Tyson. He ran into the fist. Mr. Beast recently took a punch from Mike Tyson.
Oh,
It looked
yeah,
fake,
saw that.
but he still looked very pained. And I would be afraid even to take a fake punch from Mike Tyson. And this isn't the first time this has happened. This happened previously on Steam or Steemit, where people would put up blog posts and then they would get paid. Maybe it was for more positive things, more like people improving their lives and then getting some money, or going traveling and fulfilling the travel goals. It's strange to see it reduced to just people running on the field or getting punched by this influencer guy or whatever it is. But once again, people will pay you to do things, and the internet has mechanisms to do that. They'll likely be shut down. They'll likely be pushed into the dark web, things like that. But if you want to get paid for getting punched in the mouth by, I don't know, Arnold Schwarzenegger, I'm sure there's a market out there. They can take care of it. And
Well, also,
finally,
I was going to say that that I was inspired when, well, in fact, we did two of them, but we didn't put them on Tallycoin, but very close to when Tallycoin, first kicked off, to raising sponsorships, to raising the Bitcoin flag in different random national heritage places. So obviously we flew the Bitcoin flag at Stonehenge, and then we got kicked out, me and you and Ben, and then we flew it at Portchester Castle. Remember, we went to Portchester Castle in Portsmouth. We were flying it there, and they're like, "No, you can't fly the flag here. It's all political." So we could have had sponsored Bitcoin flying flags. And I was like, in 2016, I was like this close to flying the Bitcoin flag at Glasgow, because I still can't remember seeing one being flown. And I had the flag back then, and I was thinking, I'm sure I'd be able to do some sort of sponsorship like back then, someone just to pay me money. And then, we saw, I can't remember what the guy's name is, but it was in the some sort of Senate hearing, right? And he had the buy Bitcoin sign. He obviously became famous from that, or infamous from that. But yeah, you could do a lot of Bitcoin promotion if you used LM Bits and Tallycoin and a bunch of other little fundraising systems.
And it's so funny, Dan, because if we had raised money and you had traveled around and spent the money on the travel, we would be just like everybody else. We'd be out here. Oh no, we spent so much Bitcoin on this travel. Oh no. There was a guy back in the day, Felix. He was the Bitcoin traveler, and he would go place to place on Bitcoin. And I'm sure he spent a lot. And I know those guys from the Life on Bitcoin movie. They just got married. They're newlyweds. You can actually get the movie on Apple iTunes or Amazon Prime. Check it out, Life on Bitcoin. It's a great documentary, I think from 2013, 2014. And Bitcoin was around $300 a piece. And they're spending it on gas and spending it on food. And if you saw what they'd spend, I think you'd be crying today. I saw the guy at a conference not too long ago, and he was a little sad. I think they spent maybe 20, 40, maybe even 100 Bitcoin on that honeymoon. And it was torturous. It was, begging for people to accept Bitcoin at a gas station, begging for people to accept Bitcoin at a pizza shop. It was not the luxurious Bitcoin honeymoon you could get for 100 Bitcoin now, if you could even spend it all. But that's about it. We still have the one more issue about Tether. It just sounds interesting to me. They're opening in the United States. Tether continues to march forward. They have so much money. They're buying treasury bonds. They're buying gold. They're buying Bitcoin. They really are the snake that has eaten itself and just got bigger and bigger and bigger. So just keep an eye on this USAT, the dollar-backed regulated stablecoin for the United States. Just seems like big news. There's a lot of news this week, but we just wanted to mention this as well. Dan, what do you think about Tether? It's just getting bigger.
Yeah, so this is the extension onto Lightning as well, right? So you deposit Sats via Lightning, then the Mint issues blinded tokens, and you can redeem them and burn them via Lightning. So that's what's kind of cool about this is the privacy side of it, right? It's the and Ben's been talking about the Charmian eCash for a long time on and potential on Lightning. So it's really cool to see this in practice. And cashew tips, they really demonstrate how Charmian eCash is practical and can be done using a privacy-centric network, which is Lightning. So yeah, I think it's really cool to see micropayments based on Bitcoin and instant.
And once again, Tether is just the little stock that could. A lot of us Bitcoiners were like, why would you want a stable coin? Don't you want Bitcoin that goes up, with the market? But stable coins don't go down. A lot of people like them for trades on exchanges, getting in and out of this coin into a stable coin. And they have made not a small fortune, but a large fortune off of being a stable coin and continue to do so. So it's interesting to watch the success of Tether. But we're running out of time, so we're going to go to prediction or story of the week. Dan, Eve, are you ready with a prediction or a story of the week?
My prediction is that I'm meant to be moving house soon. We're going to be kicked out, but our new house isn't going to be ready. So I may not have. There may be a few shows where I'm missing because I'll be on the road somewhere, like in a car trying to find a house, which will be fun. This is part of the adventure. So yeah, I predict that it's going to be a fun couple of weeks. That's for sure. We've got storage sorted, and it's going to be a nice little adventure. And yeah, moving away into some crazy, nice little Bitcoin property, because it's going to be, when I say Bitcoin, bro, as in like, it's not fancy in any way, but it's solar panels, and it's off grid electric. So it's that kind of general fantasy that is in the middle of the woods, and somewhere or other in and yeah, there's no electric. It's going to be low power, so I can't do mining, unfortunately. So I've got a bunch of like Avalon miners, which I'm gonna have to shut off, but all part of the fun.
Well, that sounds very exciting, Dan. We look forward to reporting from the front seat of a moving van soon, with the kids and the family in the
Yeah,
back.
2 kids, 2 dogs. Yeah,
As well. Everyone knows, they're all watching the American news. Everyone knows what's happened. We live in incredibly stupid times. We are repeating the events of 100 years ago when Germany fell into darkness. But in these stupid times, we can enjoy some stupid television. I finally got through the first couple episodes. It got better after that. And I'm now enjoying the utterly stupid Star Trek animated series, Lower Decks. The main characters are mostly stupid. They see Starfleet as stupid. The world is stupid. So maybe you should just watch this cartoon show and see if the stupidity blows over, or if it gains so large that it comes to your workplace and to everyone's workplace and drags us all out to the camps. So it's been fun. It's been nice. I do not see a problem with what's going on in the United States. I do not see a problem at all. But yeah, check out Lower Decks. It's kind of fun. There's a lot of Star Trek references. Now, whether they're really jokes or whether they're just like, you're a nerd too references, is a little tough to take. It's a little like Big Bang Theory. Are they laughing with the nerds? Are they laughing at the nerds? Is it funny that you know this reference from the original series, or that you call the original series TOS and these characters do too? And then they call Voyager Voy. They're like, I call it Voy to save time. It's full of jokes like that. So check out Star Trek Lower Decks. I hope to get to Star Trek Strange New Worlds. They just completed their season, so I can watch it all at once like that. Will be great to see as well. It's been a good show. I haven't seen that weird new movie, Section 31, about the, I don't know, kind of questionable secret undercover Star Trek people who have a secret docket and make secret laws or something. Not crazy about that either. I'm also interested in seeing that weird series where Janeway comes back in the future, but I have no idea what that's really about. Some weird animated Star Trek show called Prodigy. But in times like these, where everything's bad, maybe it's time to watch West Wing again, and to imagine that the American president could be a laudable and wonderful figure, worthy of our respect. But we'll see how it goes here in the United States. I think many other people have covered this story, and the preceding very sad and unfortunate murder of a human being has been more than covered. I don't think we need to cover it, but I'm sure you guys are checking it out and taking the footnotes from your history book and wondering when the Reichstag's going to burn down again. And really neat, the Reichstag building's still there. I always heard that it burned down, and I assumed it was gone, but they kind of saved the shell of the building. They rebuilt it. It looks really nice. It has glass, and it looks really great. And Notre Dame came back. They burned that down, but it came back. So there's always some kind of hope, maybe. But then, many fine books have been written in prison, as Hunter S. Thompson said. And Emile Zola wrote some great books in prison. And, like Solzhenitsyn said, like the work itself is its own reward. Or wait, that was the Nazi concentration camp. Arbeit macht frei. Arbeit macht frei. Work makes free. But, we'll see. Next week will be better. Everything will be fine and worked out by next week, I'm sure. So give us a thumbs up. Say hello in the comments. We didn't talk about Bitcoin knots this week. I enjoyed taking a week off. They're still fighting it out in the trenches every day on Twitter. So let us know what you think. If you have an update on knots, maybe give us a little paragraph. We'll read it on next week's show. Shout out to everybody we talked about last week, and we read your comments. And we got very few comments last week, so maybe a few more comments this week. Shout out to everybody in the chat. And until next time, bye-bye. Where's all the buttons?